Hello, welcome to Fresh Cooking Class. This one we're focusing on vegetarian diets. It is 4 weeks, with the first 3 weeks being pre-recorded videos, this being the first one. I really hope that you enjoy this program as much as I did preparing it. So, we ask that you watch these videos within the first couple days of them being released. We have sent you an email and we will continue to send you an email each week so you know where to find the videos as well as any extra needed information. So the requirements is that we will have grocery box drop-off. So you would already have one today. And then within 2 weeks on March 24th, there will be another grocery box drop-off. In these grocery box drop-off, there's going to be the program booklet. So in that booklet, you're going to find recipes and additional information. There will also be non-perishable food items. So these would be anything that doesn't need to be refrigerated. Everything else that does need to be refrigerated, there'll be a gift card in there. Use that gift card to go to the grocery store and to buy the needed ingredients. Also, there's a media release form, so this will allow us to share your wonderful products. In order to get the second grocery drop-off, we ask that you do at least one of 3 things. You can post your pictures on social media accounts and use the hashtag FreshCK. You can email your pictures to myself, and my email you can see is right there. Or you can also email any questions or comments to myself as well. And that will ensure that you get that second grocery drop-off. Now, looking at a vegetarian diet, this right here is Canada's Food Guide. So this was updated in 2019, and as you can see, I have it in the background as well. And this is what it looks like. So when we're looking at a vegetarian diet, the main concern that we're going to actually be focusing on is protein food. Other aspects of that plate remain the same. It's the protein foods that have the biggest impact for those who tend to follow a vegetarian lifestyle. As you can see, I put some examples of some different vegetarian protein sources that you can look for. So as you can see, there's legumes, there's seeds, there's tofu, there's edamame, there's nut butters. And each week we're going to focus on a different protein food, how to prepare it, and maybe some tips and ideas for flavoring it or adding it to different meals. So this week we're going to focus briefly on why choose a vegetarian diet. Some people choose a vegetarian diet due to ethical or philosophical reasons. They want to make sure that animals are treated better. They might also look at the environmental impacts, so using less land, or maybe having a more healthy, sustainable environment. Some people may choose a vegetarian diet due to religious reasons. So these are just a few religions that encourage having a vegetarian lifestyle. Some may choose it for health reasons. So we know that with vegetarian diets, there are lower rates of diabetes and some cancers. There's also, it might help with weight management and cholesterol management. So in 2 weeks, on week 3, I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about the benefits of vegetarian diet. So don't miss that. That's going to be in 2 weeks. And like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about the benefits that come with it. And others might just be a preference. Maybe it's due to a dislike of taste or texture of meat, or maybe you just don't like preparing or handling meat. So you opt for a vegetarian lifestyle. Whatever it is, I'm glad that you're here today and I'm glad you're joining us. If you look in your booklet, you'll see that there's going to be a little worksheet for March 10th. So I ask that you take the time right now, maybe take a few minutes, kind of think about, 1, why did you join this program? Was it because it was just a cooking class? Are you interested in making vegetarian meals? Do you fall in any of those categories previously mentioned? Take the time, think about it, and jot it down. The second question is, if you are a vegetarian, or were to become a vegetarian, what is your main influencing factor? And then the third question is, what are some areas that you need to improve on when it comes to preparing vegetarian meals? So take the time, think about it. You can pause this video if you'd like, write it down, and then when you're ready, play the video. Also remember, these questions are getting you to kind of think and brainstorm about some possible goals that you might want to try within the next week. There's a space right there on the sheet to list your goals. And remember, we want our goals to be specific. Say 3 times a week, measurable. We want it action-oriented, so maybe preparing a meal, purchasing a product. Also realistic, something that you can actually do, and you want to do it within a time frame. So I would say maybe within a week, so then for next week's program, you can kind of self-reflect on your previous goal, see if you accomplished it, and then maybe set another goal for the following week. Keep in mind, you also want to make sure that you write down what are the steps you need to achieve that goal. If you don't put those steps in place, you may never achieve the goal. So we want to make sure that we prepare ourselves to get to that goal. Also list down maybe some challenges and solutions. We know that life isn't always easy and things come in our way. So we need to prepare ourselves for those possible situations. So I hope you took the time to go through that worksheet and to complete it. Next week, we're going to actually talk about the types of vegetarian diets. So there's many types, and you might not necessarily choose a vegan diet, but you might choose another type. So we'll talk about all the different types of vegetarianism. So we can maybe set some specific goals next week when it comes to diet type. So this week, we're actually going to be preparing chili with garlic bread. And our protein that we're going to be focused on is texture vegetable protein and kidney beans. So these are both an excellent way to add protein into your diet if you choose a vegetarian lifestyle. And even if you don't choose a vegetarian lifestyle, you definitely can add these into your diet as well. You can make this meal with or without meat if you're not vegetarian, but it's a great idea on ways to get started to incorporate more types of plant protein into your diet. So on that note, let's get to it and let's go make some chili. It's a little cold here, so I'm ready to warm myself up. So we're going to get started and we're going to be making chili, which is one of a very easy recipe to make. It's essentially a one-pot recipe. And what I like about it is you got lots of nutrients in that chili and it still tastes great. And most of the times you can't really tell much of a difference.
So when we're looking at making it vegetarian, it's really the ground meat that we're substituting. So we got texture vegetable protein, which is a defatted soy protein that we're going to use instead. So this is going to have your protein, like in the name. It's also going to have iron. So it's great to add, plus fiber, and it's low fat. So it's a great substitute for ground meat. And it's really simple with a chili recipe. You can actually just throw it in as you're making it instead of having to soak it and then boil it before. So this, because the chili is wet, you can just throw it right into the recipe. And because chili already has beans in it, you're going to get protein from that as well. So you're getting lots of nutrients from having chili. As you can see, I already kind of set out all my ingredients. I went through, I chopped up what I needed to be chopped up, paired them together if I'm going to just throw them all in at once, and then I added all the spices. So this is everything that we're going to need. This is what's referred to as a mise en place. Basically, getting everything ready and prepared. So before you begin making the chili, I would recommend doing the same thing. Taking some time, reading through the recipe, then getting everything prepared. You want to dice up the tomatoes, you might want to section out the broth, or if you want the oil and so forth. Usually for the spices and seasonings, I usually keep them in the packet, but I did section them out for you. It's really up to your preference what way you like to start preparing and getting ready to prepare the recipe. So with that all being said, let's go ahead and let's make the chili. All right, so I have my ingredients. I got my frying pan warmed up, and I got a saucepan. So normally all of this can be done within a saucepan, but it's a little bit easier for me to kind of split them up. Also, it allows me to show you what's happening in the saucepan. So that way you can see, because if I use this, you won't really be able to see what's in there. So to start off with, we're going to start with adding the oil to the saucepan. Just going to So this is going to prevent the vegetables from sticking to the frying pan. As well, it's going to help saute it up. So I like to use peppers and mushrooms and onions. So I added those to saute as well. So normally it's just the onions, but if you like other things in your chili, go ahead and add them. And I'm not sure if you heard that, but you want to make sure that your frying pan is warm enough. So when you add it in, there's a nice sizzle. So there's a little bit of a sizzle. It could have been a little bit warmer, but that's okay. So you're going to saute it for about 5 minutes. Really pay attention to the onions. They're going to change colors. They're going to become more clear, more translucent. When it gets to that stage, that's when you know you're ready to move on to step number 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and saute this up. And also remember, for the temperature, you want the temperature to be in between medium to high to saute it up, and you want to stir occasionally to prevent any burning, any sticking. You just want a nice smell with the onions. You don't want to get it too burnt. So just a nice color, nice smell. So I'm just going to jump some steps a little bit. What I like to do is I actually like to start off with the liquid. So this is actually going to be step number 4. I'm going to combine everything in here. So then when I'm ready, it'll be nice and warm and hot and easy to transfer into the saucepan. Normally though, you just, like I said, do everything in the saucepan, but this will kind of speed things up so you don't have to wait so long watching me in this video. So that would be the TVP you're gonna add in. I didn't turn on this stove yet, just have them all added. The broth, so you wanna use vegetable broth to give it more flavor. You can also use water if you don't have vegetable broth, that's okay. The tomatoes. I like nice, thick, chunky tomatoes, so I kept them nice and chunky. It's really your preference what kind of size you like in your chili. I'm gonna just stir these onions a little bit. I can hear it sizzling. Like I said, you don't want it burn. About 5 minutes, just a nice color there. And because I do have the mushrooms in there, I want to see the mushrooms kind of change the color as well to more of a brown color. So I might actually let mine saute a little bit longer than what's needed, just because I like my mushrooms a little bit brown. But that's really up to you and your discretion. And going back to this pot, also the beans. So normally what you would do is, if you're using dry beans, you want to soak them overnight, then you want to boil them for about 1 to 2 hours the next day, and make sure you remove the water. And then that's would be how you would cook the red kidney beans before. I did use canned because I forgot to soak last night. So with the canned, I just rinsed it out, and there's always no salt canned beans. So look for those ones if you want to make sure that you're keeping your blood pressure down and you're keeping healthy and well. I'm just gonna add the beans in there. And then the tomato sauce as well. So all this is going to be ready when I jump to step 4. I'm just going to combine it all into this pot. Then let's go ahead and let's watch the onions saute. So I'm not sure if you can see right there. Let me turn off that light. The onions, they are slightly changing the color. Maybe a few more minutes and they'll be all ready. So after they're done sauteing and they get to the color that you want and the consistency, you're gonna then add in the seasoning. So this is what's really gonna give it a nice taste. The chili powder is really important. You can also use cumin, but not everybody has it, so I kind of didn't put that in the recipe, but if you do, about 2 tablespoons will give you a nice taste. Otherwise, stick with the chili powder. You can use garlic powder, so I have that in the recipe, or if you want, for a nice fresh taste, you can mince up some fresh garlic and just add in when you're sauteing the onions and the other vegetables. Normally you want to add it at the end. You only want to saute garlic for about maybe a minute or 2 to get a nice fragrance. So that's really up to you. And then there's a little bit of sugar that we're going to put in this recipe as well. If you wanted any salt or pepper, you also can put it in at this point. So I'm going to go ahead. They're looking about ready. I'm going to add in the seasoning. Then I'm just going to mix it all up. So when you're mixing it up, make sure you turn the temperature up to low, just so that it doesn't burn the seasoning, because the seasonings are a little bit heavy and it's going to dry it out. You don't want to take too long mixing it up, because you want to make sure that you add in the next set of the ingredients. So the ones that I already added to this pot, you want to add those in shortly thereafter once you combine it well. So I'll show you what my product is looking like right now. Oops. So if you can see that. Lots of chili powder in there. It's all around. But nice and good. Okay. Now I'm going to add it to this pot. I'm going to turn on this stove because it wasn't on before. Remember what I said? If you turned it down when you're adding the seasonings, now you can turn it back up when you start adding in the TVP, the broth, the tomato sauce, the tomatoes, and so forth. Because really you want to bring it to a boil. So what I normally like to do is I like to put it on high, stay around it stirring often. If you're not going to be around it, you might want to put it between medium high. And then once it actually starts to boil, you're gonna turn the temperature down closer to low. You just want a nice light simmer, and you'll let it simmer for about 25 minutes. And then your chili will be all ready. All right, so I'm just mixing it all up. It looks so good. My stomach is growling. I am ready to have this. So it has started to boil on my end. So I'm gonna set my timer for 25 minutes, and I will see you guys once that 25 minutes is up. So while you're waiting for the chili to simmer for the 25 minutes, what you can do is you can actually start on the garlic bread and cook it during the time it's actually simmering. So I just got a regular bread. This one, as you can see, is 30% off. I like to save my money when I can. These breads tend to be about $1 if your grocery store has a bakery. Any type of bread, Italian bread, French bread, a baguette, really up to you. If they have whole wheat ones, even better, or ones with seeds, go ahead and go pick those. So when you are cutting it, you can cut it kind of any way you like. Garlic bread comes in so many different shapes that I've seen, but I do like to kind of do a cross cut, kind of similar to what I see with bruschetta. And when you are cutting, you want to maybe use a serrated knife. So this one right here, it's nice and serrated, and it's easy to cut bread with. That's what they're meant for. So I'm just gonna cut some of it. Start off with cutting off a little piece so it makes it a little bit easier for me. And then I'll just cut it like that. So if I want it kind of like a bruschetta type, I'll cut it like this. If I want it, I can do it lengthwise as well. So show you what that would look like. So that's how it would look if I was to do it lengthwise. I'll just cut a little bit more pieces as well. Kind of like the combinations of the two. Different textures on the plate makes it a little bit more appetizing, and we normally like to eat with our eyes, so just by seeing the food, it gets our saliva going. The amylase that helps break down carbohydrates starts to be released. I don't know if you've seen cartoons. You'll see the cartoons with a lot of, say, saliva pouring out their mouth. It just shows our body that it's getting ready by seeing food. So presentation is always important when we're preparing foods. So I got a few pieces there. As you can see, I'm just gonna use my small microwave oven, so not a really big tray am I using. I already diced up some garlic, and then I'm gonna use margarine. So I'm gonna go on the stove in a small saucepan, melt the margarine, add the garlic for about 1 to 2 minutes, and then I'm gonna use a nice food brush to add it on to my bread pieces. So why don't we head over to the stove and get that going. All right, so now I'm at the stove. I got a small saucepan, and I'm just gonna add some margarine in it. So what I noticed with margarine is that it melts really quickly. So you wanna keep the temperature pretty low, maybe lowest or maybe one nodule up, but not much more than that, because it will melt pretty quickly and burn, like I said. So now that I got the margarine in there, I'm gonna then wait till it's all melted. Just gonna swirl it around. I'll get it melting even quicker. Make sure that's on. Okay. There you go. So now I'm gonna add in the garlic that I minced up earlier. Add it all in there. I'm gonna set my timer. I just like about a minute, and I'm gonna stir it around. And as you can see, I like to multitask when I'm cooking. That way it makes the meal much easier and quicker. You can do this whole meal in about 30 minutes, which is a great thing to do from start to end. I'm gonna stir this chili around. I think it's almost done, but we're gonna finish up with the bread put it in the oven, and then we'll get back to the chili. So here are my pieces of the bread. I think the minute is coming up about now. So I'm using just a regular brush. I designate it for food, but there are food brushes out there, and it's very nice because they help put just the right amount of the ingredients onto your bread. So if you don't have a food brush, you can always use a spoon, just kind of scooping it up and sprinkling small amounts onto the bread. Really up to you and what you have. There we go. So there's our minute. I'm gonna turn off the timer and turn off the stove, and then I'm gonna brush the bread with this. So I'm just gonna brush it with the garlic and the butter. Really, it's up to your preference how much you like. Some people might not be a garlic fan, so you might just want to make toast instead. That's really up to you. But I love garlic, and my motto is the more the better. You can't go wrong with some garlic. So I'm just gonna throw this into my small oven, and then in about 2 to 3 minutes, it'll be ready. I'll place it on broil to get it nice and toasted really quickly. But when you do place anything on broil, you never wanna leave it in for say more than 5 to 10 minutes. It's really gonna toast quickly at broil. So you wanna make sure that you're checking it. Try to stay around the area and just keep your eye on it every second, every minute to make sure that it doesn't get too toasty. So here I go. It's been 25 minutes. All right, so now I'm gonna turn off the stove, and I'm gonna put the chili in a bowl. So I'm ready to have some of this, but I'm gonna wait for my garlic bread to finish in the oven, and once that's done, we'll have a nice complete meal. So I got my bowl. Why don't you head over to the table with me, and we can go ahead and go try our chilies together. So here we are. I have the chili and the garlic bread. So it's time to actually give it a nice taste. That's really good. I enjoy that. I'll have that more in a second. I'm gonna have a piece of the garlic toast. I hope yours tastes just as great as mine. I can't wait for me to turn off this camera so I can go ahead and finish eating this up. I don't think you want to sit here and watch me, so stay tuned. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what to expect for next week, and I can't wait to see you next week, Wednesday. Oh, wasn't that meal great? Well, thanks for joining us this week, our first week of fresh vegetarian virtual cooking classes. I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope you have more fun when you're actually making and preparing the chili. So don't forget, next week, Wednesday, come back, check your emails. We're gonna have a new video. We're gonna be making macaroni and cheese. Can you imagine vegan mac and cheese? And it tastes great. I can't wait to show you that next week. So make the recipes, send me your photos, post them on social media, and next week come back where we make the vegan mac and cheese. We'll also be making steamed broccoli, and we'll talk a little bit more about what types of vegetarian lifestyles are there. Until then, take care.